Hey there, Drew here, and welcome back to the Drew Saur coaching channel. This is your first time here, thanks for joining us. This channel is for those of us who want to have stellar careers with a little less stress and, if we can, a bit more fun. My job is to bring you ideas that'll help you look at your career in a new way. I promise that if you try them out, you'll start to see the professional world differently. And more importantly, they'll start to see you differently. So this video is part of my series on strategic thinking and prioritization. Because ultimately there are a million things we could be doing at any one time. So the question we're trying to answer here is, do I know where to go first? And the topic I want to talk about today is decision makers. Because most of us, when you think about, okay, I need to get a decision, I need a budget approval, I need a project approval, whatever it is, you need to get the decision maker to agree. But what I want to suggest is there's actually a broader ecosystem that you need to think about whenever there is a decision to be made. So when most people say, who's the decision maker? Oftentimes it's relatively clear, right? It's either the boss's boss, some senior exec who will make the call. There are some committee of people who will make the call. And so, okay, so you know who will make the decision. But what I want to suggest is that there is a few other people that you need to understand. So first is, who is the decision maker? And as I said, that's the most important person. You need to understand who that is, but oftentimes that's the most obvious. Right? The two other people or sets of people that I believe you need to understand are one, the influencers, and two, the gatekeepers. So let's go through them one at a time. So the influencers are those people that the decision maker looks to get their opinion before making a decision, right? And most people have a sense of this, right? There's a typical way that your boss or somebody else would operate, or who do they talk to, who do they listen to? And I would suggest it's useful to actually try to diagram that out, right? Most things become easier to see once you kind of put them on paper. So while you have a sense of who is involved in which conversations, who's involved in which decisions, what you want to do is start to pay attention to who does the individual decision maker, again, whether it's a person or a committee, listen to when they're trying to make a decision. And what you're going to find is oftentimes it's different based on different things. So if it's talking about the budget, they listen to this set of people. If it's talking about clients and product direction, it's that set of people, right? And so what you want to do is build a profile of the decision maker. And again, this is obviously for big things, but over time you want to get a profile of who's making the decision and who those influencers are. Because it's never just one person. You want to get a list of who those people are. And I have another video on how to actually build relationships with those kind of people, but that's the idea, right? You want to get this broader set and then build relationships. And so those are the influencers. And so most people know those people exist, but maybe you haven't thought as structuredly around how do you identify who those are and then build relationships with them. The third piece is the gatekeepers. And this is something that I've found just talking to people that people think even less about. And so who are gatekeepers? Gatekeepers are people who don't influence decisions necessarily, but often play a sort of gatekeeping and a stopping function. So these tend to be corporate sort of support functions, HR, legal, things like that. Finance would be another one, where will they make the decision? Not necessarily, but they can easily say, yeah, we can't do that, right? And so you want to create a new position, you create a new team. If HR is not on board, if they don't think that's a reasonable thing to do, they can easily just squash it, right? Finance controls the purse strings. If they don't want something to happen, legal, depending on what you're trying to do, can easily squash things. If you ever have to do a legal department, you can find sometimes it's very tricky. But you want to think through each of those three levels. So who are the decision makers? The most obvious people. You got to have the right relationships with them. For this type of decision, who are the people that influence the decision makers? And again, it can be different based on the type of decision that you're trying to get approval for. And three, who are the gatekeepers? Right? Are there gatekeepers in the scenario? If so, who are they? And you want to understand their role. And once you have all those people, you have a setup, 1, 2, 3, it could be 10 or 20, depending on how big this decision is. You have a list of people, and those are the people you need to target from an understanding perspective. And what I would suggest as a strategy for that is a few positive, bunch of neutral, no negatives. So what you have to do when you're assessing whether a decision is going to go through, think of that, positive, neutral, negative. So you look at that set of people and you say, who actively supports my idea? right? And you want a couple of those, right? So you want, ideally, the boss or the decision maker to like it, but then when they look around the room, who are they looking to, you want at least a couple of heads nodding that says, okay, they like the idea as well. And then the rest you want neutral. Because unfortunately, all it takes to sink an idea is one negative. That's kind of the reality. It's not always the case, but more often than not, if somebody has a real concern, it only takes one person to stop it. If somebody really likes it, that doesn't mean it goes through. Right? You need a number of people to like it and nobody to dislike it. So again, for a big decision, now this could be your career. You could be going for a promotion or a new job, or just trying to sell, a big deal, a new project, a transformation, something that requires a lot of funding. You want to say, who are these people? Get a list of them. Figure out what their current position is on your idea, promotion, project, etc. If you don't have a relationship with these people, figure out how to get one. Again, you can check out my other video for a good way to do that. But that's the idea. You want to make the decision as predictable as possible. Because what happens if you don't do this? You're effectively walking in blind, right? You may think it's a good idea. You may even have a general understanding of how, your boss feels about it or the decision maker feels about it, but you won't have a sense of the broader ecosystem. And as you become more senior in your career, right, this matters less in the junior levels, but the more senior you are, the more of your job is getting big things done. When you're getting big things done, there are a lot of people who care. There are a lot of people who are going to be influenced, which means you need to understand where they are and you need to prepare for those big decisions with the amount of work and effort that you put into actually getting the thing done. Because if you can't get it approved, it's never going to get done. So again, for those bigger decisions, think about those three categories: decision makers, influencers, and gatekeepers. Diagram it out, understand your relationships, build them where they're missing, and make sure you have no negatives and at least a few positives. So what's the exercise? Go do it, right? So next time you have a significant decision that you're trying to sell, again, it could be about yourself, career, promotion, etc., or project, try to diagram it out, right? In the beginning, maybe it's just a handful of people, maybe it's just 2 or 3. But I can tell you, as you go up, particularly if you're presenting to a board or other things, there's probably 20 or 30 people who are involved in that decision. So try it out. Let me know in the comments how it goes. And as always, your career is a journey, and it helps to have a partner. So if you have any interest in working with me, feel free to go to drewsaur.com and schedule some time for us to chat. I look forward to seeing you next time.